Hey guys, it's Aaron Grenade here from Defy Reality Entertainment, and I haven't done a devlog for about 2 weeks now, but today I've got some time and I'd love to go through kind of what I'm doing at the moment in Photoshop. And as you can see here, this is what I'm creating at the moment, which is, I'm not going to go into too much detail as to what it is, just because I want to hold back on some of the story from Neyyah and certain various different things, keep you wondering. But basically this is like a diagram that the player comes across, so it's basically going to be like a texture that is actually put onto like a paper 3D model. I can actually show you, I think it's here, I haven't got it rendered at the moment, but in Blender here, if it wants to load, looks like it's jammed up a bit. But you can see it anyway. So you've got this big sort of like, it will be basically like a big diagram that will be on this cork board, and there's a few other ones there as well. And I've been thinking of ways that I could do this, and the original idea was to actually just sketch myself, draw them myself. But because they involve certain 3D models anyway, on certain parts of the scene, I decided to basically just take the 3D models and render them individually, as you can see here. So I've just got this this furnace model rendered against a transparent background, and then brought into Photoshop and incorporated just here. And it's kind of like a almost sketchy kind of effect, particularly this one here, which I did a little while ago before I went out. Just got back from seeing my nan. We had fish and chips there. It was so good, and yeah, she loves the fish and chips. And yeah, so what I need to do now, which I've done somewhat pretty much to these images already, is I need to kind of blend it into the actual paper. And then I also need to apply the same effects I've added here to these 4 different items. And they might not be in this position for the actual diagram, but basically there's going to be writing that's going to be in between here, and some arrows and measurements and stuff like that. So it's going to be quite nice. It's a nice world building element. I'm just going to set up a render, make sure that's all set up here. It's just loading. Okay. So to create like the blend effect, what I tend to do, I'll show an example of this for this one here. I just get the eraser and I set it to different opacities, and I can then basically just sort of work around the model. So we can see here, we also have different layers within this that kind of create this kind of really cool, warm, sketchy kind of effect, especially on the tower here. And this is done through various different things. This is what I've done there is I've actually taken away one of the elements. I believe that's the watercolor? No. Taking this one away here, which is the watercolor test file, you can actually see this really nice kind of sketchy, I think it's like graphic pen effect that's in Photoshop, which I'll be showing you in a minute anyway when I go through doing these other models here, renders should I say. And but then applying the watercolor effect there, I mean, yeah, it is the watercolor effect. You've got this kind of nice sort of sepia browny kind of tone that just goes over the top of it. I think I can actually show you the individual sketches I've got here. So you've got that's the raw. So you've got the raw files here of the different models, the different renders, and then you've got in here the effects I've added. So for example, you've got the watercolor tower, and that's just like a very kind of blotchy, almost like watercolory effect that's applied to it. And then you've got the sketch, and these were blended together basically to create this effect here, and it just works so nicely, especially because with the color of the paper that it's been drawn on as well. This has a really nice aged look to it, and the cool thing is because it's a 3D model, I'll just quickly show you what the 3D model looks like. This was just rendered in Blender against a transparent background. I did take away the ocean elements to it, which is causing a slight lighting difference to how it would actually appear in the game. But because I'm using it as a watercolor sketch anyway, it didn't really matter. I didn't really care too much about it. But because it's taking quite a realistic looking render of a very detailed model, you get this really nice detailed look within this kind of sketch as well. It's just really cool. There's I think blur effect possibly added to this one. I know I added it to this one here, but adding the blur kind of makes it a bit more aged and a bit more realistic too, so it's not too sharp. So I brought this into just a separate file because for some reason, I think it's just because of the size of the image that I was working with here, it was taking a long time to load certain things and just wasn't doing what I wanted to do. So I basically exported what I've got so far and then brought back these 4 models that are going to be edited onto the page. So instead of using the eraser to actually kind of blur the effects here, so you've got the kind of like the worn look of the pages, I'm actually going to use the patch tool in Photoshop. It's the healing brush tool, I believe. And this one's really nice for just blending other parts of the image to maybe just erase certain parts that you don't want, which is going to be happening for a lot of the renders for Neyyah as well. Let's set that up. Lovely. So I'm going to use this tool here to basically merge this part, this drawing here, into the actual page. Even just adding that, for example, it's quite big at the moment, but it just kind of blends it into the page. It's quite large, so I might actually just undo those for now, but it just blends everything in quite nicely. I'm going to bring it down and just sort of do it there instead. It can be a bit of a sort of hit and miss situation, but most of the time it just works out quite nicely. This kind of blends it all in together. And it's kind of got rid of the bar there, but I just want to maybe keep. I probably just want to keep actually. I want to just take these out. Just blend that in. It's quite nice. So if I can go with that again. Nope, that's not good. Let's make it a bit smaller here. Change the hardness of it. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So it just blends everything in. Merges everything together like it's sort of smudged and just a bit worn looking, which is quite nice. Cool. I might just erase this bit more. Bring that out a bit more like that. That's pretty cool. Nice. So now what I'm going to do is how I basically apply these effects. I'm going to now do it to these individual renders here of guns, basically. Which is pretty much, this is the first time I've exposed guns. No, there has been another time. Because actually on the Steam page there's a new interior render that I uploaded as a screenshot right at the end of the all the images, and it actually has, I believe it's this one on the wall. And you can actually see it on the wall. It's kind of got like a light coming down on it. But yeah, I am going to add these effects to these images. the first thing I'm going to do is open up this particular file here of this gun. I have that, I believe, in the raw section here. And it's just this image here. So this is something I modeled a little while ago. I think it's sort of late last year, and it turned out really nicely for what it needs to represent anyway in the game. And like I said, I'm gonna keep stum about certain things, and just because I don't want to spoil the story elements of the game or anything like that. So this is going to be a bit of a tricky video to do without really talking too much about the detail of what's actually being presented here. I can give you the main gist and the basics. So I'm going to apply a watercolor kind of effect to this using a filter gallery. This is something I've never really used much at all until today. And there's some really cool tutorials on how to turn your sort of pictures, photos into sort of drawings and stuff. And I kind of came up with my own way of doing it, but I kind of took certain elements of those videos that I kind of just was able to do, or just found it kind of resonated with me, and sort of ran with it. And it might be a bit different for each picture, but the certain effects I've got, I'm going to apply to these renders here. So we have to go to I think it's actually this one here, is right in front of me. I believe the actual effect is already from the last one that I used, so the settings are already set. Yeah, you can sort of bring out the shadow intensity on it as well, which is kind of interesting, but I want it to be quite light, so that's perfect. Adds a bit of a blotchy kind of painted look to it, which is quite nice. That's all I need. I then bring that into my sketches folder, the individual items, and as you can see here, I've got like a sketch graphic pen, which I'm about to apply in a minute, version, and I've got the blotchy watercolor version, which is quite close to the original render, which is quite nice. Keeps the details. I found the sketch to be a bit weird by itself. You know, just this technique blends really nicely with the paper. So I'll save this as Gun 1 watercolor. Brilliant. And now I can bring that image into this file. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a rough kind of area of like where this can sit within this diagram. That's pretty cool. It's also a bit bigger than it was before, so I'm just going to bring that in like this. Maybe go a bit smaller just because of the size of everything that will be going around it. So there'll be kind of like writing and, like I said, like measurements having been made and little notes and stuff like that on this page. So I just got to make a bit of room for that. So I'll make sure. Yes. Oh, wrong one. Oh yeah. There you go. Cool. So I'll just bring that there and apply that. Brilliant. So what I'm now going to do is add an overlay effect to this. I believe it's an overlay effect. I'll just double check. Yes. So I'll apply an overlay effect to this one. Then what I'll do, I can actually alter the opacity of that as well, just to kind of like bring it down and make it more faded into the page, which is quite nice. And I believe I also will add, if it needs it or not, I'm just going to desaturate this, because if you bring up the saturation, just so you can see there's a huge difference. So even just bringing down that saturation blends it even more, whilst keeping that kind of sepia tone. I can sort of darken it or lighten it depending on what kind of effect I want. The actual, I'll probably just lighten it, to be honest with you, because when I bring, I can actually duplicate this layer here, and I'm going to add a difference text filter over the top of it, and bring that down to the bottom, and bring it up slowly, just to add that kind of darkened effect to it, or how much I need it to be sort of darker. So that's quite cool. I find that just a bit more useful than darkening the other one, so that's quite nice. That sits quite well. Now we're going to basically do the same thing that I've done here. I'm going to add the filter over the top, but this time I'm going to go for the graphic pen. I believe this is already set from last time as well, but again, you know, each little render might be different from the last. So for example here it's quite light, this darkens it, I believe. That's having not much of an effect at the moment. There you go. This sort of darkens it up, maybe brings out a few more details that I want to see in it. So that's quite nice. It's very sharp at the moment as well, but stroke strength I can sort of bring down if I want. Makes it a bit more fuzzy looking, but you just bring it up a bit more, you can see a bit more detail. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool for the kind of sketch version. And then I'll save this as the sketch. Okay, so I'm now going to add my sketched version of this gun. For some reason I have changed folders. That's better. Ah, that's strange. What's going on there? Okay, so I am going to add the sketched version of this gun. I'm just going to place the embedded, and I'm going to bring that over here, so it basically kind of sinks in relatively well with this version that I've got going, which is the watercolor version. And they don't have to be completely precise, but I just like to get it fairly close like this. That's good. I'll then make sure that it's below these layers here, and I'll add a subtract, I believe, which kind of brings out sort of like a darker quality to it, and then I'll just affect it with the opacity, kind of bring out a really nice kind of old aged kind of look to it. And then I'll just go into my saturation and bring that right down as well. I can adjust the lightness of it as well, bring out a bit of saturation, even though it's already quite dark anyway, there's not going to be any colour really there. I can then maybe adjust this one if I need to. There you've got, like, you know, almost full quality there of the actual render itself, but just blotched out. Bring that down. This is the difference layer, so just bring it up a bit more, and then you've got this similar kind of tone to this. So this works quite nicely, actually, to be honest. Works really nice. So what I'm going to do now is add a blur effect to this sketch, which is very transparent. It's only about 11 opacity. It's only 11% on the opacity saying, but bring up a bit more, we'll have that. But that makes a huge difference, right? So you probably just want to kind of, me, I pretty much just want to go back to the 11%, just because then it kind of blends in really nicely with everything else. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a blur effect. I'm going to just mess around with this until we get this really nice faded look, which is already looking pretty cool. That's no effects. Then we've got like a high radius here. It just changes it quite dramatically as you go along. That's quite nice like that. It's quite cool. Yeah, that's looking good. Brilliant. And what I'll do as well is I'm going to start blurring out with the eraser some of the actual image. Just kind of make it so that it's kind of blended in with the paper. And I think I can use the eraser almost to do this as well. I think this will work. I don't know, affect too much there. I'll do it. I'll try it with the watercolor versions as well. There you go. So you've got this nice sort of blurred edge to everything. I want to keep some of the details, so I'm just going to fade these, and I've set it to a fairly sort of good opacity there, so it's not too heavy. Brilliant. Awesome. I'm now going to do the same thing to these three objects here, and I'm probably just going to go with the crystal, just because I want to see how this will look and how it can appear on the paper as well. But yeah, so I just wanted to show you guys kind of what I'm up to at the moment, creating these cool kind of sketches and diagrams that the player comes across. It's very different to what I've been used to doing so far with Neyyah, and it's a bit of a kind of like a slight learning curve as well, but it's coming along really well. I'm really happy with the way it's turning out, and just getting this technique down has just given me a lot more confidence to kind of like make sure that these are going to look quite effective within the game. And I've even been thinking about how they can be really clear within the game as well, and having the option of actually when you zoom in to look at these things, it actually kind of appears on the screen, and there's a kind of like this sort of, you don't zoom in on the actual object within the scene of the game, maybe because the lighting might be sort of poorly lit. Instead, you'll actually come across the nicest, cleanest view of the diagram or whatever you're looking at. So that way you get the best kind of result, the clearest insight into these diagrams. So you can read them carefully as well, especially with writing involved. And yeah, it's really good obviously working with Photoshop for this kind of thing, because the tools here are just really kind of adding a new dimension to this kind of work. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, comment, do whatever you want to do. Definitely stay posted for more devlogs that I've got coming up as well as I progress and design Neyyah. It's full on in development at the moment, so there's going to be many more of these devlogs coming out, and cool announcements along the way as well. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and definitely wishlist Neyyah on Steam as well if you want to be part of that journey when it eventually comes out. There's a lot of work still left to do, but it's come along really nicely, and day in, day out, night in, night out work. So be sure to wishlist Neyyah, and I look forward to sharing the world of Neyyah with you. Thanks for watching, guys. Till next time. Bye.